Welcome everybody to BNI Talks. This week we've got a chapter success story from Middletown, Delaware. Also the name of the chapter is Middletown, yes. And I've got three members of that group. We've got the president of the chapter, Gene, and also Bruce and Carl. And Gene, why don't you take over, talk a little bit about yourselves and introduce your teammates.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Well, thanks for having me. With me today is Mr. Bruce Rushton from the Delaware Growth Coach and Carl Pace from the Dynamic Marketing Insights Group, and myself, Gene Fatula. I have the Merchant Services seat in the chapter with Card Connect Partners.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of briefly introduce myself. Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Rushton. I'm the owner of the Growth Coach of Northern Delaware. We are we have the business coaching consulting seat in the chapter. I've been being a part of BNI for about 4 years now, and in fact, almost day one of starting this business, about 4.5 years ago, we joined this BNI chapter. And I think at that time we had about 16 members.
Wow.
In the chapter, and I've served in a couple of different leadership positions on membership committee, visitor host, things like that. And so glad to see everybody today. Looking forward to this discussion.
Yeah, my name is Carl Pace. I'm with the Dynamic Marketing Insights Group. We're an all-encompassing marketing firm headquartered out of Middletown, Delaware, and we hold the digital marketing seat in the Middletown chapter. I've also been in BNI about 4 years, and I found great success within the BNI chapter and even cross-chapter referrals that literally have created gross revenue for my business to the tune of millions of dollars through BNI referrals. So BNI is really important to me because I tell everybody that I work with or train with, nothing happens until somebody sells, and nobody sells until you have a solid network. And BNI is that opportunity to make that happen. Along with Bruce, when I joined, there was 15 or 16 people in the group. And through some things that we're going to talk about today, we've been able to grow that to 53 strong and still going.
Yeah, that is a pretty amazing thing to do, especially given what we've just been through. So this chapter's, as Carl mentioned, at 53 members, starting off in the teens, and as Bruce reminded me, 30-ish before the pandemic. So this is a group that grew considerably during the pandemic. And that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to talk about them today. So that a lot of times people use some excuses as to why their chapter isn't larger. And sometimes it's like, well, we're in a small town. So Middletown population is 22,000, give or take, right, as of 2020. Maybe it's a little bit more. Maybe let's round it up to 25,000. That is a pretty small place comparatively to most of the big cities where we've got chapters and all that, and they're not this large. So they're doing something right. And that's, I think, something important for us to talk about today. Out of curiosity, any of you three, how do you go into the pandemic with 30 people and come out the other side with 53?
Steve, I'll kind of tee up the chapter a little bit. When Todd Tuvel and Glenn Schwabe and Juan Butron, the leadership group in front of past me, asked me to take over as president, I figured, well, how am I going to improve what these guys did during COVID and Zoom? So our chapter is diverse in age, gender, ethnicity. We have some unbelievable different categories. But I thought to myself, how can I improve on what these guys did? So I did a quick SWOT analysis and figured we have two unbelievable members with some key strengths. So I went to Bruce and said, Bruce, you have an amazing gift. MSP is a little lacking. Maybe you can incorporate a professional development committee and help train our newer members. And he jumped all over it. And I'll let him dive into that in a little bit. And the other thing, I figured, you know what? Carl Pace has an unbelievable skill set with his social media presence. And I asked Carl, I said, Carl, we have these folks that are presenting each week. Could you develop a social media post that we could all share in our various social media outlets and also attract visitors? And Carl said, I'm on it. And of course, Carl would accept no compensation, which is the epitome of giver's gain. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Bruce to tee up his program.
Yeah, and so one of the things, Carl, before I let you comment on that, Steve, I really want to comment on something that you were asking about, you know, that transition during COVID to where we are now, and the leadership with Gene. When I look back on that growth during COVID, we really had an amazing team that was committed to making that transition seamless and that change seamless, right? Everybody was, it was a shock to everybody's system and businesses during COVID, everything that we had to do. And, but we embraced it. We embraced having to go on Zoom, but we continue to embrace also inviting visitors. And, you know, so some of the things that we're doing now was born out of some of the things that we saw work even back then during COVID, engaging with additional business owners on social media and things like that allowed us to continue to grow the chapter even during COVID. And in fact, we had to prepare to move locations once we got out of COVID because we grew so much that we would not be able to go back to our old location.
Wow. Amazing.
I think importantly in there is the quality recruiting and the style and the way that we recruit, because it's very easy to say, hey, we grew during COVID. Well, how did you grow during COVID? As business owners, really any business owner, regardless of your industry, you have interaction with other business owners, other clients that own businesses, and scanning them out to see if they would be a good fit or a good referral partner for other people in the group. And then action is the fundamental key to all success. If I don't actually ask somebody to come to the group once, twice, 3, 4 times a week, I'm going to get 0 people coming to the group. So much like any other sales, I might get 8 no's, but if I get 2 yeses, that's 2 more people that are coming to my group that we vetted out to be quality people. So our team is very committed to action, and we've seen that that action results in success. So I would say we got to get out and ask the question, you know, are you looking to grow your, I ask people this all the time, are you looking to grow your client list, your sales, and ultimately your profitability? And if the answer to that question to any of those is yes, I have a meeting I'd like you to join me at this Thursday morning at 7:30 a.m.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, fantastic. So as we, before we get into that, I'm curious about this. And everyone, now that the chat is working, please put in the chat, you know, how do you measure success in your chapter? All right. And how can a chapter, if we have chapters out there, maybe you guys can talk about this, sustain success over a long period of time? Because a lot of times we see chapters that are kind of up and down.
So one of my things, and that I see very much so within our group, is we are business partners that all work together for the success of the other businesses within our group. I visited other BNI chapters, and right, wrong, or indifferent, a lot of times you see a lot of divide within chapters. You'd see the people that aren't necessarily following up like they should. Within our group, there's a lot of accountability, but prior to the accountability, I'm going to go back to that initial recruitment process. You know, we talked about offline, you know, us just having a seat opening up, and we had 4 different companies that were looking to fill that seat. That provides our leadership team the ability to really pick the best person for the spot, not somebody that's just going to fill it. Think about it like running your business. It's absolutely okay to not hire somebody. If they're not going to be a good fit for the people in your group, it's absolutely okay to not bring them into your group, because yes, there's going to be some revenue there for BNI and maybe a couple of dollars for your group. But overall, those referrals, those warm, solid referrals that are the money that we're there for, they're not being passed, and that's a wasted seat.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we've got a lot of people talking about, you know, how do they measure success? And it seems like it's thank you for closed business and referrals and revenue and visitors, all of those things that are priorities for your chapter. Gene, you were talking about your revenue for last month.
Yeah, Steve. So Josh Wilson, our vice president, noted yesterday that last month we had $221,000 in thank you for closed business. And we think we generally underreport that.
Yeah. So this is kind of like, you know, when you start hearing numbers like that, this is a multi-million-dollar chapter. that, is on the rise, right? Even now at 53, there's no complacency, right? There's no, slowdown. I think a lot of times chapters hit a certain amount of success and they're like, oh, I need to take a break. And then things go down again. And then you have to ramp all the way back up again. And I think sometimes if you look at this list to the left, these are things that can make the chapter either go stagnant or start to lose members, right? If members are complacent, if your contact spheres are imbalanced, if you've got a huge trade sphere, but you've got, no one in health and wellness and maybe 2 people in marketing, the chapter is not going to sustain itself well over a long time, right? Active leadership is an important thing, right? You're not just the president in name only, but you're doing things to make sure that the chapter is moving forward. You're taking care of your members. Sometimes engagement can be down, right? We have to look at that. A lack of vision, right? So you're not planning out for the next year. You're just trying to go week to week. Accountability is huge, not just for the members, but for the chapter, right? And the leadership. And not having goals. So, Carl, you were going to say?
I was just going to say, and 2 of them click on there: active leadership and accountability. The Middletown chapter has been very fortunate that from multiple in a row leadership teams, we have had serious success stories with active people that want to be involved. With that, they hold us, the members, accountable. If I'm sitting in that seat every week and I continually pass 0 referrals, we just heard it from our secretary treasurer the other day that was essentially saying we're going to hold you to BNI standards. So I hold the digital marketing seat. If I consistently pass 0 referrals, when it's time for renewal, I'm going to hear my membership team say, thank you, Carl, but unfortunately this isn't working out. You're not meeting the standards. That allows that room to come in for somebody that's going to do something in my seat. Is that easy? Absolutely not. These are people that we've made friends with, and now Gene or whoever's president has to tell them they're not being renewed. Being a leader is not easy, but it's that solid leadership that keeps us pushing forward.
That's great. And we're going to talk about mentoring in a little bit, just so you don't think that, Carl and the rest of the members of the chapter just kind of wait people out and then cut them loose. That there is, right from induction, a lot of attention paid to these members. And so we'll get into that in just a bit. I did want to talk about this picture in the middle of the secret sauce, because people ask that, like, why is this chapter more successful than ours? Who are the people in there? And it's really not, from what I've seen, and I think you guys can agree, that there's no one in there that are absolute superstars that are just bringing in 1,000 referrals a week and pumping up the numbers. This is effort that's across the board, and people have like a similar mindset.
Well,
I will say
Steve,
this.
I'm going to grab that one. Yes, everyone carries their weight, but we have 3 absolute superstars, double-digit referrals consistently, that are just the backbone of our group. We also have, and Bruce and Carl, correct me if I'm wrong, 10 or 12 folks that are 10-year members that are the backbone of our group.
And that's a big part of it.
And some unbelievable diverse backgrounds and categories.
Right.
We have a 21-year-old fella who does truck and car wraps. And he has gravitated to Carl and Bruce and has listened, and he's grown his business. I wish I knew what he knew at 21.
Yeah, well, there's a standard that's set, right? That people, when they come in, are already expected to live up to.
Yes.
He's been in our BNI group for a short period of time. He's working his one-to-ones. During his one-to-ones, he met with a couple of people, one including me, and we asked that question within our group: what is your ideal referral or your wow referral? And he threw a couple of them out. Within the couple of months that he's been there, other members of our team have been able to connect him to the accounts that he was looking for and unable to reach without BNI. And he's closing those accounts now because of the BNI network.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, I think this is about, and I've got this Mr. Rogers quote over there that I ran into this morning. And I think it's important because there's a responsibility of every leadership team to say, everyone who comes into this group is going to have the attention paid to them so that they have the best chance of success in BNI. And that's not always the case. I think sometimes we get very excited about new members coming in, and then they come in, and then they're like kind of thrown into the fishbowl, and then they're kind of lost. The newness has worn off. Whereas the mentoring is important straight through, regular check-ins, and making sure that they're getting everything that they need, which is what you guys do.
Absolutely.
You leaned into a point there, making people feel welcome. And I'm sure other chapters do as well, but we do have a welcoming committee that meets people as they come in, and they'll quickly hand them off to somebody if they're busy signing other people in. So that, Steve, if you walked into our chapter, not everybody's looking at you like, who's this guy? Bruce Rushton's walking you around and he's introducing you to people. And like any other social scenario, when we feel welcome, when we feel invited, and all of a sudden we're having a good time. So that welcoming approach that our group has allows us to see second visitors, third visitors, and ultimately members.
Right.
Steve, to dovetail on what Carl said, we have an unbelievable facility. They treat us like royalty, and we've made a decision with membership to do away with food. It's too much of a distraction. Bring your own bagel, bring your own coffee, and this way you're not distracted by the eggs are cold or this, that, and the other. Focus on why you're there.
Right. Yeah, you're not there to serve breakfast. You're there to network, right? And I realize there are some groups that meet in restaurants, and that's part of the deal, and that's all cool. But in the end, you have to make sure that the work is being done in the networking as well.
Yep.
All right, so let's get into two things that you do. If I could flip this thing, there we go. So you have professional development, and there's three things that you do. And let's start with this one. And by the way, I'm going to do a disclaimer here. These are done within the chapter. These are not BNI sanctioned things, but they work for the chapter. This is where tradition plus innovation comes into play in BNI's core values, is to say, what can we do for our members that's going to even help them more than what BNI provides? All right, let's start. Classroom training. Who's got that one?
So Steve, let me talk a little bit about what we're doing, right? Because one of the things you touched on in the last slide was you touched on vision.
Yeah.
And Gene Fatula, our president, certainly takes his position serious and tried to create a vision for what he wants this chapter to look like, be like, and operate when he's done being chapter president. And so he approached me and Carl to come with an idea to do a professional development series. Now, here's what we do, right? And so on the third Tuesday of each month, we meet at my office. Actually, I have a nice big training room at my office where we bring members of the chapter out for about an hour and a half training session on some topics. And we've come up with some topics that we really feel like align with people's success, their success in BNI. So it's really aligned with some of the things that you need to really embrace and do really well in BNI. So I'll give you some examples of some of the classes. And by the way, this is a 12-month series. So we're going to meet 12 times over the course of the year. We're in month 4 or 5 of doing these sessions. So one month we talked about your 30-second commercial and mastering the moment, right? Also had a topic, we talked about your personal brand. We just went over, a discussion around your elevator pitch and mastering your why. And by the way, we asked participants to read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, to have some really robust discussion around that. We're going to talk about public speaking. We're going to talk about presentation skills, how to present to engage. We're going to talk about your BNI gains profile and how to really take advantage of the best ways to build out your BNI gains profile, because it's really important when other people start to search for you and having really good information in there. And that's a great marketing tool for you as well. And we're going to talk about, you touched on creating goals, and we're going to talk about that specifically in one of these classes, creating SMART goals and more importantly, how to execute on those goals. And so that's the classroom training side of what we're doing in our professional development series. And everything that we do is aligned with, what we're trying to help BNI members get out of their membership, right? So don't just join BNI and come in and just kind of be there. Let's help you develop your skill set so that you can get the most out of your time in BNI and your membership.
I laugh about this a little bit because Bruce Rushton with the Growth Coach is phenomenal at what he does, but his hourly rate also reflects that. And this is a free hour, hour and a half every week with Bruce, because we don't charge our BNI members for this. And as a matter of fact, we've opened this up to any BNI members that want to come down to this. Obviously, it's in Middletown, Delaware, but if you're in the area, you're more than welcome to join us. So it's a free opportunity. And very importantly, every one of these skill sets within this personal development series, professional development series, transfers over into your day-to-day business. If you get trapped in an elevator, and I say trapped, if you get fortunate enough to be in an elevator with somebody, what are you going to say to them for 30, 45 seconds or a minute to make yourself look good, rememberable, so that they call you to do business with you? So these are skills that transfer and not only make you look good in BNI, but truthfully should increase your business and your profits in the streets.
All right, excellent. All right, let's go on to part 2 of this, which is mentoring.
So you talk about, not just the classroom training, but everybody that comes regularly to these classes, we set you up with another person, sort of a mentor, somebody that might be, those skills may be a little bit better than yours. So we try to pair people up so that there's some opportunity outside of this classroom, outside of this training, to really continue the discussion and be mentored a little bit on some topics. So it's kind of cross-pollination mentoring in the sense that everybody's, really is going to have, you're going to be a mentor and you're going to be mentored, right, by someone else. And so that's a really powerful component of what we're trying to do with this professional development series. And then obviously a side note and benefit to this is the amount of one-to-ones that we get in these groups, and kind of having people connect in this manner. We really get to know people in the group. You really get to know their businesses a little bit better while you're trying to learn and improve your skill sets.
2 points to that. One, the third thing that we're going to see as well, all 3 of these work together. So we got you in the classroom 1 day a month, which in the grand scheme of things is great, but that's not keeping it top of mind. When you have your up-down mentor, that's doing a couple of things for us. As Bruce already described, you're mentoring and being mentored, but it also gives us a sense of we're responsible for somebody else's success. And anywhere that I feel that I have a shortfall, I have somebody that I can go to and get that advice. So we're hitting them throughout the month with that mentorship program. The third piece also is brought into that. So all month long, there's something going on that they're doing within the program, and we're building relationships. When I have to talk to my mentor, my mentee, when I'm talking to other people in the group outside of my monthly BNI meeting, I'm creating friendships and I'm building my network. People refer friends. In the sales world, I'll say a lot, don't sell, never sell anything. Make friends, friends trust friends, and friends buy from friends. And as we continue to do this, who are you going to refer? I'm going to refer my friend. And so this is a very fast component scenario here, but in reality, it keeps us engaged with each other, and it keeps us with all making each other better people and better businesses. And BNI as well gets to win from that.
All right. And the third component is independent study.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, a couple of these classes are going to require some of that. And so we don't take the shortcut approach to this, right? This is not come in, let's talk a little bit and go home and feel good. No. We're expecting you to do a lot more. We're expecting you to increase your skill sets. And so like I talked about with the class that we had on mastering your why, we had everybody prior to the class, if you were going to attend that month's class, we needed you to read Starting with Why by Simon Sinek, and we'll have more of those things. And so we have when we talked about your 30-second commercial, we had people, okay, so when you leave here today, based on the things that we talked about, we need you to craft out a better 30-second commercial, script it out, write it out, and be prepared to do it at our next BNI meeting. And we were going to be checking, Carl and I were going to be checking for that and mentally grading you and some feedback after that. And so it's always things like that, it's not just the classroom, but there's going to be some things that we're going to require and ask of participants to do just to help keep that learning going, right? Because the question is always, how do I go from knowledge to skill, right? And so in those classroom training sessions, you're getting a little bit of knowledge, but how do you go from knowledge to skill? It's the doing part. It's the mentoring part. It's the follow up and follow through and the little bit of coaching that we provide each other that helps you go from knowledge to skill.
Now, Bruce, I'm going to assume that the membership committee lets people know when they're being screened that there's an expectation of performance and education that goes into this, right? I've seen a lot of chapters that are struggling, they're trying to get people in and they try to make it seem as simple as possible. But what's jarring to them is, oh, I didn't even realize that all this stuff was coming at them.
Yeah, for sure. And well, we do a really good job of laying out the expectations, explaining the new members, everything that we have going on, everything that BNI has for them. And then some of the things like we're talking about here today that we've designed for our own membership team, our own membership base to help them succeed. And so it's important that we do that. But we do have high expectations. This is the one of the most important meetings of the week for me. And we try to get every member to really look at this meeting as such. And so all of those expectations are laid out ahead of time. And, and it's one of the reasons why we've been so successful.
Right. Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. This kind of expectation, when you come into the group, you're like, all right, they want to see something here. So people tend to fight their way in to a group like this. And this is why people are wondering, like, how does it get to 53? Well, you don't take just anybody, right? And people have to perform, right?
Right.
I'm going to coin this now. I'm going to call us the Harvard of BNI, right? And it's the same thing.
That's a full group, but okay.
We're not accepting every applicant, but I equated us to Harvard for the same reason. BNI as a whole and our professional development series and the other thing we're getting ready to talk about, it's a lot like a university or college. You don't have to go there, but if you're going to make the commitment to sign up and go, take advantage of it and get the most out of it. And we have to set the culture, really is what it is. And if we don't set our culture and we just let anybody come into our group, it only takes a couple bad apples to ruin a bunch. So by setting that culture and those expectations up front, one or two things happen. They join and they're successful because they know what our expectations were, or they turn around and run from us. And if they do, who really lost there? I don't feel like it's us because they weren't going to be of value to our chapter anyway.
Right. And those of you who, when you hear Carl talk like that, with that kind of confidence, doesn't it kind of make you want to join a group like this? For those of you who are like struggling to get people to get into your chapters, like maybe you've got a lot of visitors come in, but your closing ratio is not as high as you want it to be. Sometimes it's because you don't have that. And sometimes, finding that person who can speak of what the potential is for success in a way that makes you want to just say, give me that application. It's not so easy to find, but it is a skill, as Bruce was talking about, something that you can learn to do. Everyone has people who, for a living, get people to sign contracts, right? So if your visitor host is not a real estate agent or an insurance person, maybe start with them, or just someone who's got a ton of enthusiasm, who's going to get people to that next point. Right? All right. Let's jump over to the other thing that you do, and that is creating the social media coordinator role.
So again, Gene Fatula came and said, Carl, look, you guys run social media for a lot of companies, and we think it'd be a good idea. So Gene and I sat down, and this is kind of what we came up with. So in short, as I'm sure most chapters do, we have two people that present every week for us, and we were trying to think how to recruit these quality people and how to get their attention. So my company, the Dynamic Marketing Insights Group, took over the social media coordination for a private group that we have, and it's a private group for this reason. There's a lot of information that we pass back and forth within our group through social media about meeting times. Hey, Bruce, this came up, whatever, and we can do that there within that group. We also initially post these in that group. Then that allows each one of our individual members to save these creatives and post them anywhere that they see fit to try to recruit people to come in. So as an example, on the left, we have Todd Tavel with A Pro Home Inspection. And in that particular one of the things that we want to do in the marketing world is really stand out and be engaging. If you're doing everything that everybody else is doing, and think about it like a radio commercial, it comes on, you hear the same boring tone, you hit the button and you're moving to the next station. We don't want to be that. We need to create show-stopping, thumb-stopping graphics or key lines that people are going to laugh at, they're going to want to share, or that they can absolutely get in line with. So what we found is when we started making it a little funny and a little creative for BNI, and we were sending these things out, we really started to get engagement and started to get visitors on this. And we had a lot of our members within our group starting to get active within their social media by sharing this. And all of a sudden they became that person. And what that person is you know a guy. When I need a plumber, I need a whoever, oh, Gene Fatula knows a guy. He's always posting somebody on his Facebook page, and it also increased referrals for us. So 2 to 3 weeks in advance, we ask every one of our speakers to forward over to my group a headshot of them, their logo, and a little bit about what they want to talk about. From there, my graphic design team takes that, polishes it up, puts it together in a creative, and our creative writing team takes what they want to talk about and try to make it more fun or engaging and put it together in things like this that you see. The QR codes that you see on some of these are running them back to the BNI visitors page. So if they were to scan that, it takes them back to Middletown where they can register right there to come visit our chapter and see what this is all about. In addition, these are very easy to share in other areas if people needed them so that they can get their own social media presence to be out there. But we found that marketing, and Steve mentioned this earlier, marketing sometimes without leading as BNI. We're leading as this group of people or Gene or Duck Creek Carpet going out and giving a little speech, and you're being invited to come learn a little bit about their business while networking your business. And by leading that way, we've seen a decent amount of success with that.
Yeah, Carl, I agree. You know, it is great to use BNI graphics or get people to understand that. But when you invite someone to your chapter, you're inviting as a business owner reaching out to another business owner, right? Or professional to come into your group. So sometimes putting these out can work just as effectively, if not more. So however creative you want to get about it. And I love the QR codes. They're so simple to use and easy to get people into your chapter. And obviously it's working because you have a good, your visitor rate is higher since you've been using these. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What is BNI's motto?
Yeah, it's giver's gain.
Correct. So
I thought it
Carl,
was a trick question. I'm like,
so Carl and Bruce refused to be compensated for their time and efforts. So they are the epitome of giver's gain in our chapter. These two gentlemen do this to grow our chapter. Now, it's in their lane, but without them, these two programs wouldn't happen. All I did is push the button and they ran with it.
I appreciate the feedback and the acknowledgement on that, but I'm going to have to acknowledge our entire chapter, right? And it does go back to giver's gain. This is just one thing that I can do for the chapter to be successful. This is one thing Bruce can do for the chapter to be successful. But we've seen time and time again, that mentality, your success is my success. So if Bruce and I, through these programs and everybody getting involved in these, we can pass more referrals, we can get more visitors, we make a stronger chapter. every single person in the chapter wins because of that. And we've seen that selfless giving in a ton of different ways from our people, but it is the mindset and getting in line with givers gain. We've all seen in every chapter somebody who walks through the door and it's all about what can you do for me? How successful are they? How much business do they get? And in reality, how long do they last? If I go in with, I need Bruce to be a better company because he's a referral partner for me, and the more people I can put in front of Bruce, the more people Bruce is going to put in front of me, we both win.
Yeah, no question about that. And I think that that's, the key that you touched on was culture. Ask yourselves, everyone, what is the culture of our chapter? Is it one that has an expectation to continue to evolve and do more and make more money and bring in more people that's going to make you a better resource for the people that you work with? Or is it, a weekly meeting that you go to every week for some coffee and seeing some friends? Is it a club, or does it run like a business? And if your chapter runs like a business, you're going to have success. Okay? All right. Before we go into Q&A, Gene, Bruce, or Carl, any final words on your chapter?
You kind of just said really the wrap up, and we talked about it already, but accountability amongst membership, the people, and everybody having everybody's best interest in heart absolutely will push your business further ahead. And don't be afraid to ask. Like you heard me say earlier, make it a mission that once a day you try to find somebody to ask. And if you get 4 no's, 5 no's, that's okay. Do it again next week. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you will become at asking people to visit your chapter.
Absolutely. All right, let's jump in here. It looks like these questions are pretty much directed to Bruce. How do you recommend classroom training in an all Zoom chapter? Any ideas on that?
So how do you recommend classroom training so our chapter is not on Zoom anymore, right? So I just let me clarify that. We were on Zoom during COVID. We were able to grow, but we're not in Zoom anymore. So we do meet in person. And so that's why it's easy for us to just kind of extend those in-person interactions to this classroom training session. But if we were to go back, let's just say the pandemic reinvents itself and comes at us with a vengeance, we have the ability to still do the same thing on Zoom. Carl and I both conduct multiple meetings and sessions currently on Zoom anyway, right? And so I mentioned that the classes are held right here in my office, but I'm also, I have currently I have clients that I've was referred to me through BNI in Zoom classes that we conduct already monthly as well. So it's not a problem. We would easily be able to kind of transition to those Zoom sessions and just getting people connected that way.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there is enough functionality on Zoom to do a good training with either a PowerPoint or using the breakout rooms or however you want to make it work for you.
That's right.
Okay. Amanda wants to know if you're recording your classes so that they can watch.
We do not. And people in the chapter ask those same questions. Hey, Bruce, Carl, are you guys going to record the meetings? And we say no, because we really want you to be there and to get the full experience of those interactions and discussions. Again, this is not a session where we're going to be talking at you. These are discussions. These are true discussions. We'll present some knowledge and some information, but we really engage with everybody that's there to get their thoughts and opinions on that. We don't, claim to be the experts at all of this stuff. There are so many people in our chapter that are experts at 30-second commercials, that are experts at, presenting a personal brand or doing presentations, that we invite everybody to engage with that. And so for that reason, we don't want to record those sessions. We want people to attend, get the full effect of those sessions.
Great. And Marie says, thank you. This is a really incredible chapter. Where is the training one day a month from the growth coach?
So I put it in the chat. We do it right at my office at 108 Patriot Drive, Suite A in Middletown, Delaware. It's on the 3rd Tuesday of each month. from 4 to 5:30. One of the things we didn't talk about though is that we typically try to let people know we may go across the street or go down the road to a local restaurant for a little happy hour after we get out of here as well, and kind of continue those discussions.
And that's critical, Steve, in there. I mean, that outside of work, and this is the same with sales or anything else, but uberly important in the networking world, getting to know people outside of business, again, creates those further bonds. A lot of what one-to-ones are designed for, but that little after piece is also very critical for the friendships that we build.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering, you can have tremendous success on Zoom as well. We've had many chapters that have done well. Obviously, your chapter while on Zoom grew, right?
Continued growth.
So yeah, this can be done online or in person, whatever works best for you. And I know it's been kind of tough for people to make a decision, but I think the best thing to do is to make a decision on what you want your chapter to be, either in person, online, or hybrid, however you want to do it. And get that done if you haven't done it already, so that you've got some sort of stability. You can always change your mind later if the group votes in a way that makes sense for them. But I think getting to that point where your chapter knows what its identity is, at least for the moment, and that'll probably stick, long term. But just get that done. I know there's still a few chapters out there that are still kind of figuring it out, right? Marie is only 2 hours away from Delaware. She's going to hop in the car, I think. She's very excited about this.
That's very cool. Get her to register, and maybe you could throw the registration in the chat if you haven't already, Bruce.
Yeah, that would be great. All right. Let's see what's coming up. It's all just Maria. Okay. I think we are at the end, folks. So let's check the chat for Bruce to put in the registration when he has a chance. Carl says, at Middletown, we all enjoy each other outside of BNI via golf, fundraisers, business development. This is what I was talking about with culture, right? Many of us typically see each other outside of BNI as well. But Carl's point, it's beneficial to work with friends, absolutely. And I think a lot of the chapters here have that, but it hasn't been opened up the way your chapter has opened up to new ideas and the accountability to each other. And I think that's really what's doing it for you guys, is that there's the expectation of success coming into BNI, and not every chapter does that yet. All right, so everyone has Jean, Carl, and Bruce's email if they want to get in touch. Please take advantage of that, because these guys have some pretty special stuff going on in their chapter. If we all had 50 members in our chapter and we're doing $250,000 in business a month, life would be good, right? But it doesn't mean that you can't be. And by the way, your chapter kind of mirrors my own chapter when I was in it, where we were in the teens when we started, and we've got all the way up to 58 members at some point. It is something that takes time and effort, but it has to be consistent, and it can happen fairly quickly. Yeah. All right, guys, final words before we sign off today.
I'll just say thanks for everybody to come out today and just listen to and think about some of the things that we're doing. I appreciate your time. I know, it's Friday, and you could probably be doing all kinds of other things. So I appreciate you jumping on with us today.
Sentiment as Bruce, and I would also just further reiterate, please use our emails. If there's any questions that didn't get answered on here, all three of us are wide open to doing whatever we can do to help other chapters as well. So please feel free to reach out. We appreciate your time today.
And Steve, one final thought as a president, as Carl and Bruce said, it's a collective effort. We are 53 members strong. Granted, we have our warts, we work through it, but as a collective unit, we are very strong.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks everybody for being on this week. Give yourselves a CEU, and we will see you all next week. Take care. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.